Thanks for coming. My name is Matt Riegel. I'm a graduating senior in the Anthropology department. I did a year-long research project with soccer supporters groups, and so I will tell you a bit about it. In 2013, I spent 10 months completing ethnographic fieldwork in Philadelphia with the soccer supporters group Sons of Ben and Bear Fight Brigade. These groups, who present themselves as the most passionate and loyal fans of the professional soccer team, the Philadelphia Union, were a unique entry point to study the effect newly emerging digital spaces are having on understandings of community. This research investigates these groups' methods of community formation and maintenance through the use of digital spaces such as online forums, Facebook, and Twitter, to reinforce the traditional physical spaces of bars, tailgates, and stadiums. By deploying these new spaces as a viable and even essential place of community engagement, these groups have been able to cultivate a trans-geographic community that had previously been elusive and unstable. By using new sites of community engagement, these groups have been able to localize and participate in discourses of the broader national and international soccer community, the most salient of which is the meaning of loyalty. Positioning this dialectical argument of loyalty as the central tenet of community foundation perpetuates irreconcilable discussions about the very meaning of community membership, thus ensuring there's always something to talk about. It's important to provide a brief history of Major League Soccer in order to refresh a particular historical context, however recent, in which this has developed. The league was founded in late 1993 as part of the United States World Cup hosting bid of 1994. But it did not start play with its inaugural 10 teams until 1996. The first year the league averaged attendance of 17,500 per game, a figure it wouldn't match again until 2011, and surpassing the NBA in a year that saw the return of Michael Jordan. After its first year, league attendance sharply declined and stagnated around 14,000 per game for the next decade, that is until 2007. The late 2000s saw a resurgence in MLS with 7 expansion teams from 2007 to 2013, and growing attendance that would soon make it one of the top 10 most popular soccer leagues in the world. This expansion, in addition to the signing of superstar David Beckham to the Los Angeles Galaxy and the founding of the Sons of Ben, would mark it as a key year in the history of the league. More importantly than the soccer milestones, however, were the technological advancements that would create a space for new fan communities to flourish. After unrestricted membership in 2006, Facebook saw its user base quadruple from 12 million to 50 million by the end of 2007. The same year also saw the founding of Twitter, and possibly the most influential moment in the history of the league, the launch of the first iPhone. The significance of this can only be seen now as Facebook and Twitter reveal that more than 50% of their network use by their over 1.5 billion combined users has become through mobile. The importance of this mobile access cannot be mistaken from my first moment entering the field. Walking through my first tailgate, I saw people regularly on their phones and taking pictures. Not knowing anyone outside the digital spaces that I had already entered, I did what most other people around me seemed to be doing and pulled out my phone. Sure enough, there were people that I was standing no more than 10 feet from that were tweeting on Twitter. You may laugh now or think that that sounds ridiculous, but I'll explain in a moment why, in the context of these new communities, it makes perfect sense. Now, when I met up with the Bear Fight Brigade, the season was coming to an end, and we had to watch the Union lose another game on a late goal. I stood out on the deck of Franklin's pub, talking with a few of the people I'd met earlier in the season, and for the first time I got to talk to the founders, Jeremy and Justin. They were all wearing something to show their affiliation to the Union or to Bear Fight Brigade. A jersey for a few, Justin in his patched up denim vest, a scarf or a t-shirt for the rest. Some stood around smoking, a few others on their cell phones, who I safely assumed were tweeting about the game, and most had beers in hand, having been drinking since mid-morning. I explained my research again, this time shrugging off the academic pretensions and hedging we had all grown tired of. I want to know how and why supporters are using social media, and what that means, I asked them. I remember Justin looking at me for a moment as if the answer was strangely obvious. Well, we started by calling and texting people, but as it got bigger, it just got too much of a hassle. You can't call everyone. I immediately thought of my own nightmares organizing pickup soccer games back in high school, before these groups or Twitter had even been founded, and his answer immediately resonated with me. Trying to organize a transgeographic community, such as soccer players spread across rural Pennsylvania, or Major League Soccer fans, two of which, if we're honest, still rarely live on the same street, through text messages and even Facebook, quickly becomes frustrating. This is because text messages and Facebook are designed to reach only your primary network, those people that you already know. For forming a transgeographic community, you need to reach second and even third degree networks, those people that you are only connected to through other people. You know a guy who knows a guy who sometimes knows a guy who is also into watching soccer on a Saturday night. It seemed to make sense, but a practical space just for communicating events and news isn't very interesting to research, and if that's all it was, it shouldn't be a space that elicits such passionate participation. Over the months of my fieldwork, I had witnessed countless arguments, celebrations, and a full range of emotions and actions on Twitter. Justin's answer couldn't satisfy why these people would tweet other members of the group about a television show that they were simultaneously watching 50 miles apart, or why so many people regularly displayed pictures or biographical information proclaiming their allegiance to the Union, Sons of Ben, or Bear Fight Brigade. Or most of all, why were there so many arguments within these groups about supporter behavior? Like, should they participate in the now infamous chant at opposing goalkeepers that had been banned by the front office? Did they have an obligation to make the environment more family-friendly so that the team could sell more tickets and the league more television rights, thereby getting the team more money and better players? At least that's how the argument goes. And what about promotion and relegation? The system used in nearly every major soccer country across the world, where the worst teams in the league at the end of the season move down a level in a hierarchically arranged structure of leagues, and the best teams move up, like demoting a Major League Baseball team to a farm team. A lot of people continue to ask, shouldn't our team enjoy that same opportunity to succeed, or fail, and create motivation for the owners to spend more money on better players? What can supporters do to make the league more internationally competitive? The ultimate goal for some. That shouldn't be all that surprising. Should the real supporters' obligations, those that should be seen as the epitome of loyalty, include coming to every game no matter how the team does? Or should they make it clear when consistently bad results are unacceptable by any means necessary, including not showing up? It's here in these arguments that we can see that the role of digital spaces becomes a key place of community maintenance. Twitter, primarily in this instance, but also in combination with other social media, becomes a place for performing, archiving, and contesting ideas of loyalty. By deploying community symbols such as visual markers of allegiance, certain behavioral norms, and ideological values, all of which can be openly presented, indexed, and represented to all degrees of networks, members can assert their relevance within the particular community. To quote Anthony Cohen, the reality of community and people's experience thus inheres in their attachment or commitment to a common body of symbols. If we look at these groups' public self-representations, it becomes clear how the argument over loyalty is made a central symbol of these communities' identification. Looking at the crest of the Sons of Ben logo, Sons of Ben, you see a motto, which is a common practice for European team crest after which it was modeled. This motto reads in Latin, ad finem fidelis, or faithful until the end. Similarly, Bear Fight Brigade regularly displays an explicit list of values on scarves, banners, and digital spaces that reads loyalty, inclusion, family, and pride. It's here in these mottos, which are similarly repeated by supporters groups across the league, for example, Portland's Rose City Till I Die, or hashtag RCTID, that the emphasis on loyalty is made explicit to each member. To again quote Anthony Cohen, the symbols of community are mental constructs. They provide people with the means to make meaning, and in doing so, they also provide them with the means to express the particular meanings which the community has for them. It is in this flexibility of the meaning of symbols that arguments for relevance within the community are made. Ultimately, discussions about the viability of the system of promotion and relegation, ways of generating team and league revenue, and supporter behavior allow people to invest time and deploy common community symbols in attempts at accumulating symbolic capital within the group. For these transgeographic communities, digital spaces have been the most meaningful way of articulating and demonstrating this dedication, as it allows geographically dispersed people to access, in their own time, the deployment of these symbols by others. The dialectical nature of this argument seeks an irreconcilable, homogeneous understanding of the performance of loyalty. Irreconcilable because at the core tenet of community foundation, a conclusive agreement would eliminate the primary space to deploy and create meaning for community symbols, thus preventing the daily practices that reaffirm the very existence of the community. In conclusion, these practices reveal that on-the-ground conceptions of emerging social media challenge traditional notions of those spaces as bounded and separate from physical space. Instead, they should be seen as complementary, with practices that reflect and produce cross-spatial engagements. Regular use of digital spaces, particularly through mobile connections, demonstrate efforts to engage with broader transgeographic communities through the execution and deployment of community symbols and symbolic behavior. In the case of soccer supporters, this includes presenting and archiving evidence of activities that prove loyalty, such as tweeting pictures from an expensive and distant game in Portland, or Instagramming a picture of your scarf collection, all of which reveal the investment you've made and the subsequent loyalty you've demonstrated. Thus, my first experience at the tailgate with dozens of people on their phones is revealed not as an unusual antisocial behavior, but rather normative practices for participating in transgeographic communities. This research also could shed new light on social media practices of other groups, perhaps revealing that students' use of mobile engagement is not degrading or trying to replace face-to-face interaction, but supplementing or redefining the formation of these relationships that are also relatively transgeographic. Thanks.